Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Madisonville Marine, the new title partner for Lindsey Nelson's stay. Actually, that's not true. We were talking about that earlier. But Madisonville Marine, since 1976, they've been East Tennessee's best boat dealer. Their selection of boats is huge, drawing in boaters from across the state and across the nation. Now, think about this. They sell and ship boats as far away as Florida and California. Now, why would someone buy a boat in Madisonville and have it shipped to Florida or California? Well, it's pretty obvious. There's no better place to buy a boat. Madisonville Marine. Best selection, best prices, best customer service on top of that. Since 1976, this is where you turn if you're in the market for a boat. Madisonville Marine. All right, take a look here at a quote from Kirk Herbstreit, and I'll step to my little monitor so I can read it. I think you're going to see more and more of that offense in college football, he said. I think people are going to start to mimic it. I think a lot of people are going to study what Tennessee did last year, and they're going to try to create those one-on-one situations. You're always one man short. If you're light in the box, and if you have a quarterback like last year with Hooker, you're always short, so you got to get a safety down. Now you're playing cover zero. And now you got to find one receiver who can win one-on-one. So I like that offense. I think you'll see more and more of it this year. You're already starting to see more and more of it. He thinks more and more is going to be on top of the more and more we're already seeing the last couple of years. Will West, what's the impact on Tennessee if everybody's running this thing?
I don't think it really matters that much for Tennessee.
Well, this will be a good segment because we're going to fight.
At some point in time it will, but we're not there. It's like the read option. At some point in time, people are going to figure this out. Defenses are going to figure this out because defenses always do. But right now, Jeff Lebby's running a similar system at Oklahoma. South Florida just hired Tennessee's offensive coordinator. Joey Halsey can't wait to get a mid-major job. That's coming at the end of this season. I do think the tempo that Tennessee works with will be the thing that people try to mimic, not necessarily just the offensive system, but if you have the architect of it, how many people ran the West Coast offense after Bill Walsh? But nobody did it better than Bill Walsh, right? Because he was the architect of that. So I don't know that it necessarily, in my opinion, hurts Tennessee that much.
Gentlemen?
The challenge, I think, will be if more teams are running similar offense and they find ways to succeed with it, you might be in more shootout 50-50 type ball games, which often will go your way, but sometimes won't. And if it doesn't go your way, that can be what keeps you out of conference championship contention or playoff contention. The positive to me will be this is a big negative for, I don't know that big, it's a negative they have to face in recruiting. Well, if more schools are using it, well, Tennessee can say, assuming they continue to succeed, yeah, they're running what we're running, we're better at it than them, you want to play for us. So that would be the positive sell in recruiting, which they need to do to get more players to be able to ultimately compete with the best programs in the nation.
And see, my fear would be, coming at it from a completely negative side, on the recruiting front would be right now, we've got a differentiator. You want to come play in this offense. If everybody's running it, what's your differentiator? Now you just
That's why you need to succeed.
Now you need to be a better recruiter than the other guy, as opposed to now we've got this shiny thing that we sell. You want to drive one of these? Come drive this. You can only get it on our lot, as opposed to, oh, we've all got those. Just come buy it here, buy it here, buy it here. We'll let you play immediately. Oh, we can't do that. Okay, then I'm going there. That would be the other side of it.
There is a differentiator that might come up in the next segment.
Okay. Bob, your thoughts? Is this a negative for Tennessee if everybody's running it?
Why did Tennessee take a dive against Army last year?
Because they didn't want to face this weird offense that they never see.
Exactly. Because Tennessee, who had better personnel probably on their second and third strings than Army didn't want to play against an offense that you see once. Okay, I think the more you see it, the more defenses adapt. Is there an offense before this one that defenses have not snuffed out eventually? They change their players. We're going to get smaller and faster. Maybe we got to get bigger and slower. Who knows what it is? But I just think eventually defenses, when you see something enough, you figure it out. And I think by seeing it 3 or 4 times a year instead of once, okay. And what did Georgia do? Georgia just beat it with better players.
Well, but they also, you know, in talking with Justin Hamilton, former Virginia Tech defense coordinator who was with us last football season, who's now with the Tennessee Titans, he pointed out that Georgia, you know, that whole offense makes you pick your poison.
Yeah.
And Georgia just said, all right, we will pick it. Here's the way we're going to run it, and our offense can handle it. So, yeah, it's beating with better athletes, but also they had the athletes to say, yeah, we're not going to worry about this run game. You want to run it? Have at it. We're taking your pass game away. And Tennessee couldn't beat it.
Right.
I think you're right. I think that it also, if everybody's running the up-tempo, then you lose the advantage of being the man. They wear us out when we play Tennessee. We've played this 4 times this year. I just think there's the more you see something, the more you get used to it. Whereas you saw Alabama last year, you had guys on one of Hyatt's 5 touchdown catches. You had a DB looking at the sideline, trying to figure out what am I doing when the ball is snapped.
Yeah.
If somebody's seeing that repeatedly, I don't think you're having that kind of miscommunication. Oh, we're going to treat them the same way we treated Florida. So, we're treating it the same way we played Alabama or Auburn last week. Okay, cool, got it. I think that's where it's a negative for you. I don't think, if you got something special, I don't think you want other people taking from it. It may not be as bad as I'm making it out to be, but I don't think it's a positive.
Well, in Lindy's preview that they did this summer, they pointed out there was a coach that gave a quote that said it's like facing the triple option. You can't mimic it in practice.
Right.
You don't have the players that do this. You don't have guys that are used to this tempo. So it's just facing Tennessee something you're not going to see ever again. It is going to be different if you're seeing it multiple times. By the way, Alabama adding South Florida to their schedule, who runs the same offense with Tennessee. I don't think that's by accident. Now, the question is going to be,
good point.
What are the different wrinkles that are made? Because Levy likes to run a lot of crossing route stuff, whereas Heupel likes to pressure you to the outside. It's the tempo, I think, that people are going to try to mimic, not necessarily the offense itself.
This is also why they're probably going to keep running the clock after first downs. One thing Tennessee has to do, which I think we'll get to, is they've got to have more of those players on the because that turns into a defensive conversation. Tennessee's going to need more of those difference-making players, especially along the line of scrimmage, if they're going to try to take something away from the opponent who might be doing something close to what Tennessee does.
All right, very good. Let's move on to that. Let's talk about player acquirement. We'll talk about the recruiting rankings for Tennessee up next when we come back on the Sports Source. The Vols are top 10 in their rankings. Is that good enough? And we'll also tell you what one national site said about Tennessee's collective. Good things to say. So again, I say, is Tennessee good enough at 10? We'll debate that. Come on back.